What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, this is TW Motorsports, and today we've got the wife's dirty Cadillac in here. She actually works beside a place that creates a ton of dust, and it rained, so that just, it's all bad. And today it's snowing, so I'm not gonna worry about cleaning it today. But there is one thing that's really annoying to me on these cars. I absolutely love this car, but the biggest annoyance is the brakes. So while they stop amazing, no complaints there. They make a ton of dust, and you guys have seen this if you've been following my channel for a while. Back when we had the ATS-V and the second gen CTS-V and even my C7 Corvette, these things just make a ton of brake dust. You can see where I wiped my finger there, and this happens like you can take a 10-mile drive and your wheels are completely caked. And it's just annoying to me because the car's ceramic coated and the front is clear braled and the whole thing stays really clean. But when you get something like this, you're constantly cleaning the wheels, and that's an annoyance to me. So today we're going to be replacing the brake pads with something different. Actually Power Stop, which I will list in the description down below. You can see the two boxes there. And I've used these in the past. They do give up a little bit of initial bite, but we don't drive this car on the track. It's not a, you know, they make a track day pad. I don't know how they are for dusting, but I do know that these will cut down the dust almost to non-existent. So that's worth it to me. It's still gonna stop great. It's still gonna be a good performing car, but I'm just, this makes me crazy. So today I'm gonna show you this, how to replace these. I'm probably only gonna show you guys one side, maybe the front and the back, but the other side obviously will be identical. I'm also gonna clean the wheels. I'm gonna clean up the brake pads, or the actual calipers. And so let's get started. I'm gonna get this thing off the ground, probably start in the front, and see what we can get accomplished. I will tell you, these things are kind of low, and there's a couple spots that you can jack up on, but I chose, there is a bolt that runs right here under the little side skirt. That is where I chose to jack up. So I've got my puck on my jack centered on that bolt. Did the same thing on the other side. It does help if you have two jacks, but if not, you can just do one side at a time. To me, it's just, I'm gonna go back and forth and do both. So now let's get the wheel off. Now, if you have the factory lug nuts, a 22mm is what fits. Let's get these things off here. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, if you were in a hurry, you could probably do this relatively quickly. It's not one of those things it's probably the easiest brake pad change that you'll ever do, because you don't have to take the caliper off the car. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go grab my hammer, and I'll bring you guys in closer and talk about what we're gonna be doing. But let me go grab a hammer and a punch. Let's take a look at what we need. So you're gonna need a 13mm for this guy here. The back side of this is a 13. We need to take that 13 out. And then here, we're going to use a punch. I'm just using one of these guys. I'll list them in the description down below, but we have to drive these pins out, and that will release this little bracket here that you see. And then once we get the bracket out, we should be able to pull the pads out. See if we can get the 13 out first. Maybe a little snug. That's not too bad. And it's gonna wanna push out. If you hold it, then you don't have to have anything on the end of it. We should be able to pull this completely out. And then we'll just set this together. I'm gonna clean this up. And now, see if we can drive these pins out. And I know I'm using a claw hammer. It's what I had handy. And then take note of the orientation of this bracket. Generally your pads, I haven't even opened them, generally they come with new brackets. But if they don't, you can clean these up and reuse them, but just make sure that your pad bracket goes back in the same way, because it shouldn't go in this way, but just take note of that. And this one's actually easier than the one I did last. Generally they a little more sticky. We got our pins out, and it may come with new pins too. Like I said, I haven't opened the pads, but then all we need to do is try to slide the pad out, which acts like it's somewhat compressed. There we go. Sometimes if you pry against them a little bit, give you a little more room to get them out. Look, these things are monsters. Notice it has a wear indicator on this one. Let's take a look and see if our back one has one as well, because they may be a front and back. Oh, it does. So the pads are actually identical, but look, these things are monsters. Look how big they are. So now I'm gonna go grab some cleaner and probably a toothbrush, and we're gonna give this thing a good scrub down. Now I'm just using some super clean. These things just get so nasty. And generally, if you keep up with them, I generally wash these. I've got a little brush that I wash these with when I'm cleaning the car. They're not too bad to clean up, but if not, you could spend a little time here. Notice there's some areas where it's kind of really caked up. Look how gross that gets. Disgusting. I might go over it a couple times off camera, guys, and maybe change towels. Generally, I use the dirty towel to start and then clean it a couple times and switch over to a cleaner one. I'm also gonna clean the surface of the pad here. I may scrub this down a little bit with my brush just to make things a little cleaner. This rust in here, I don't know if I'm gonna mess with that, but we'll probably do this though. I'm probably too picky. I feel like if you're here though, do it. Let me tell you how picky I am too. I'll do this probably 2 or 3 more times off camera. I'm also gonna use a little brake clean to clean up the rotor surface. I might even use a wire brush on that. That kind of makes me a little crazy, that rust. Now that we've got everything cleaned up, I'm gonna take some brake clean here and just wipe the face of the rotor just to get any dirt, debris off, or extra junk that I didn't get clean. You can see it running out. I'm gonna do the same on the back. We just don't want that we don't want that junk on our new pads. The other thing I noticed is that it did not come with new pins. Generally you get new pins. It did come with a new bracket, so new hardware, but not the pins. So I did use a wire brush to clean up those pins. I also kind of brushed around on this center, just a wire brush. So we need to grab our pads, and they kind of go in a certain way. Just, you can see that there's a cutaway there. That cutaway should line up, and I don't remember which way that it went, but the other thing is you may have a little bit of an issue getting the pads in because they may be a little thicker. So what I like to do is you can kind of put them in there and pry against those pistons. If they're prying a lot, it may be a good idea to go up top and release or take the cap off the brake master to give you a little more room. And I may have to do that because it doesn't act like the pad's wanting to go in there. I don't remember which one I took out last. I believe the back, right? So that should be the way it goes in. This is pretty common for them to be snug. I'm gonna take the cap off the master to give us a little more leeway as far as compressing those pistons back in. So I took the cap off. I just loosened it. I didn't take it completely off, but that should give us a little more leeway as far as compressing these pistons in. And then you can see it goes in way easier. And they're not, guys, they're not side specific. They're made the exact same, so you can't put it in the wrong way. What I will tell you though is when you press one piston in, the other one comes out, so it may take a little bit of doing. And I'm gonna put a little bit of caliper grease on these as well, on the back side of them. I'm just trying to get us a little more room before I put the grease in place. This front one, we seem to be pretty good at that point. So what we may do is grab the other one and push it in a little bit more. There we go. There, you can see now they're sliding in and out easy. So let's grab some caliper grease, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put some on the face here where those pistons touch. That'll keep things nice and noise free. Let me go grab some of that. It should come with your new calipers. I mean, I have some in a jug, but might as well use what they sent us. Those pistons are kind of like that. You can look in there and see them if you'd like, but once we do that, then we can go ahead and put it in. Make sure you're putting it in the right way, guys. You can put it in the wrong way, where the pad is touching the outside. And in my younger days, I did that. Put the pad in backwards. Boy, is that noisy. And now basically we're doing reassembly, but backwards. We're gonna put, I generally put this guy, even though I took it out, I put it in first. So we'll push this down a little. Get this in place and we'll snug this down. And I'll see if I can find a torque spec on this. I don't remember. I generally just get it snug. I don't generally torque it. but I'm gonna leave it loose. And then we'll grab our pins. And remember I said, make sure this goes back in the correct way. Take a picture if you need to. And I'm just gonna give this a tap. Get it started. Then we'll swing the top into place here. Get the other pin in. And you wanna make sure that these pins are completely flush in the back. And push up against this as you're pushing the pin through. That'll keep things aligned. You can hear when it's all the way in. And now we can go ahead and snug this down. 24 foot-pounds is actually what this torques to. So I did find that. So at this point, we're all complete. Make sure that it rolls around and you don't have any binding or anything. Like I said, these rotors are still good. There's no lip on them or anything. Normally you would want to turn your rotors, but I don't even know that you can turn these two-piece rotors. I don't think that you can when when you use these type of brake calipers. I don't believe you can turn those. But either way, I'm gonna go ahead and time lapse me cleaning up the wheel, and then we will move on to the back. Now we've got the wheel all cleaned up, both outside and inside. And guys, I don't know if you saw me use my little eraser wheel and some 3M adhesive remover, but that does a good job at getting those old wheel weights off. I figured since we've got it apart, this is a good time to do that. So I probably go a little too overboard, but to me, when you have a wheel off, clean the whole barrel too. So we now got the wheel back on. I just snugged down the lug nuts. We'll talk about torque specs when we completely finish, but I'm gonna go do the other side real quick. But the next thing you guys are gonna see, we'll have the back off the ground and we will get started on the back. Now that we got the front on, we're moving on to the back. And so for the back, there is a couple cutouts in this bottom piece right here that you can get a jack in. And that's how, like if you took it or you went to the factory, that's how they lift. You can see that cutout right there. And that's where we've got our jack. And I actually put one on the other side as well. But let's go ahead and get this wheel off and let's get this brake apart. once we get the wheel off, very similar situation that we had to the front. The only difference is we don't have that bar that comes across the middle with that 13 millimeter. So we're still gonna use a punch, and we're gonna pop out these pins. And sometimes, guys, if you push on this bracket, you can just go ahead and pull it out. You really just need the punch to get it started. You don't have to drive it all the way through. So you can see this hardware doesn't matter whether it goes this way or this way, unlike the front. Same thing here, we're gonna clean up the pins, because I'm assuming since the fronts didn't come with new pins, back didn't either, I'm just gonna use a wire brush on them. And it at least does come with new hardware. So, same situation here. Just pull your pads out. Quite a bit of wear on those, but not, there's still a lot left too. I'm gonna try to push those pistons back in. Remember, we still got the master cylinder cap off. Just try to give us a little more room when we're going back together. So, anyway, all right, I'm gonna clean this up. I won't show you guys that again. This one's not nearly as bad. The fronts generally are the worst part, but I'm gonna give this a good scrub down, and then we'll get the new pads and get them in. Well, I got it all cleaned up. Check out what it came with, new pins. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure when I bought the last kit, it came with new pins as well, so I don't know. But it also comes with the new hardware. Anyway, we need to go ahead and put some grease on there. I just test fit the pads, and they went in there just fine, but there's only 2 on the back here. 2 pistons, that is. So we'll put a little grease here. And here. Go ahead and slide it back in. They're kind of picky. And then I slide them down a little further because you can see some of the grease slid on the outside of the caliper. Man, it's a tight fit, guys. There we go. Same thing here. I think my light up top, I don't know if you guys could see it blinking, is going dead. I think a lot of people don't put grease on these. And the problem that causes, guys, is when you're going down the road, sometimes they rattle. So as I said, I push them down a little further just because that grease, I want to get it off the caliper. Not required, but just because I'm picky. And then we need to get our pins in. So we'll put our bracket here in place, and it kind of only fits one way. Get it lined up with our pad. There we go. And you notice, like, I slid the pin through before I had it. Get a hammer and tap that thing in. I'm just getting it started. We need to put the bottom pin in. Nope. Missed the bracket. It's really hard to do with the camera right here. I'm basically doing it by feel. All right. Now all we need to do is just tap those pins all the way through, and we are good. So now we can go clean up the wheel. I won't show you guys that. We'll get this one on, then we'll get it set down on the ground, and we'll talk about torque specs for the wheels. Like I said, I'm not going to show you the other side. This one is the easiest out of the bunch. So I'm going to go whip out the other side. We'll get the wheels cleaned up and on. Then I'll do the same thing I did to the front wheels that I showed you guys, and get this thing on and back on the ground. I got the back wheel on, and so at this point we need to torque the wheels. And man, these things get a ton of torque. 140 foot-pounds is what we're gonna torque these wheels to. Now, aside from that, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Make sure that if you loosened your cap up here for, you know, some added pressure relief when you're pushing those pistons back, make sure you tighten that. So we've done that. I'm gonna wash this thing, it's so gross. But at this point, guys, once we torque the wheels and we get obviously that cap tightened, then we need to get in and pump the brakes up. What's gonna happen is when you start this thing, it's gonna go all the way to the floor because we push those pistons back, and so those pads are not touching. And if you try to just put it in reverse, I will run right through that wall and garage door. So you make sure that you pump up the brakes. That is a huge, huge thing. Do not miss that. It's kind of hard. Sometimes, like I've done this over a couple days, you come out here and let's say you finish it and you're not ready to drive it yet, you forget. And so just make sure that you do that. But other than that, I'm gonna take it out and drive it and do the brake in because those pads need to be bedded in. And so how you do that, I'm not gonna show you guys that because that process is kind of boring, but you do multiple stops. So you do 5 stops in a row from 40 to 10, and that's kind of a moderate braking, you know, kind of a just lightly slowing down, and you do not stop. So 40 to 10, you do that 5 times in a row, back to back to back. And then right after that, you go 35 to 5, and those are a little bit more aggressive. And so at that point, you're gonna do 5 of those back to back to back, right after the 40 to 10s. And once you've done that, you need to drive this thing around for at least 5 minutes and let the rotors and pads cool off, and that should be it. But what I plan on doing here, guys, I'm gonna go out and do that. And then I'm gonna get this thing all cleaned up because it's disgusting. But I'm gonna check back in on this video in a couple days and see what kind of brake difference we have. As far as like, I'll talk about, you know, does it stop as good? Is there any issues? And then most of all, we'll look at our wheels and see how much brake dust we have, because the initial bedding process will create quite a bit of dust and heat. But once we clean that off, going forward, we should be good. So let's get this done. I'm gonna go ahead, like I said, torque the wheels, get it out, drive it, and then get it cleaned up. We're gonna maybe wait even a week, and hopefully it doesn't rain, and we can get a good idea what the wheels are gonna look like going forward. So guys, here we are, roughly 3 weeks after doing this. I guess not quite 3 weeks, but we haven't had any rain. And weather's been cold. She's been driving this thing just about every day. You can see the thing is dirty. It's got dust on it. Pretty good layer of dust. I don't know if you guys can pick that up, but yeah, so it's dirty, right? It needs washed, but look at the wheels. The wheels look almost as good as the day that we did this. Now, there's maybe a little bit, you could see that, but nothing near what we had before. So guys, like I said, I can't tell a huge difference in braking. I don't know that I could tell any difference in braking between the power stop pads and the stock ones. Now, people that probably drive these things at autocross events and whatnot, they can probably tell the difference. I don't know, maybe they fade if you get them really hot, but we don't drive this car like that. So to be honest with you, I just don't see the point And to me, it's worth more to have these brakes on and not have to clean the wheels, because literally after 2 trips, actually 1 trip to town and back, which is maybe, 3 miles, those wheels would be coated worse than what they are right now. That is how bad those old ones are. But like I said, guys, if that is something that annoys you, like it does me, like I just cannot stand to have dirty wheels. I remember back when I had my C7 Z06, me and my son took it to the track one night. It was all clean, perfect. And I made 2 passes down the track and the wheels were complete. They almost looked black. That's how bad they were, because obviously you're getting on the brakes pretty hard. But I just don't get it. Anyway, if you guys did enjoy this video, if this is something you deal with on your car, on one of your GM vehicles that has these brakes, that's why I kind of like the carbon ceramics. I know they're way more expensive, but they don't dust like this. And they stop just as good, if probably better actually. But anyway, if you did enjoy this video, guys, please, like always, smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are not subscribed, please go down there, hit that subscribe button. Of course, ring the bell icon that notifies you every single time we drop a new video, and stay tuned to see what we work on next.